They don't need to see you coming. They don't even need to hear your name, because the most effective way to destroy an enemy is not with your fists, not with your voice, but with your absence. The absence of weakness, the absence of predictable emotion. Every move you make in anger, every outburst, every visible reaction, those are free weapons you hand to your opponent. But when you strip all that away, when you become unreadable, they have nothing to aim at, and that terrifies them. You do not clash with them. You erase their advantage before they can even reach for it. You move like water, impossible to hold, impossible to strike. You let them swing at shadows while you tighten the noose around their influence. Machiavelli understood this truth centuries ago. The real predators of the world do not roar. They wait, they stalk, they lure their prey into believing the fight will be fair, and then reveal it was never a fight at all. Your enemy will exhaust themselves chasing a target they can't see, trying to provoke a response that will never come. They'll start making mistakes, bleeding power, showing cracks. And you? You'll remain still, patient, controlled, because cold mental power is not about attacking. It's about watching them destroy themselves with their own momentum. When you understand this, you don't just win. You erase the possibility of losing. You become untouchable. Comment this right now so I know you're ready. I move in silence. I win without mercy. Number 1. The first law of cold mental power. Understand this. Power is not always seized in a blaze of glory. It is often surrendered quietly, piece by piece, by those who underestimate the stillness of their opponent. Your enemy cannot truly lose until they begin to believe that you cannot be touched, cannot be rattled, cannot be drawn into the emotional chaos they feed on. You create that belief, not with grand displays, not with constant motion, but with control over a battlefield they cannot see, a battlefield that exists in their mind. Cold mental power begins with the discipline to say nothing when your ego demands you speak. It begins with showing no sign when your instincts scream for reaction. Every withheld word is a weapon they cannot parry. Every unreadable expression is a wall they cannot climb. The less you reveal, the more they reveal themselves, and in their desperation to read you, they'll hand you the map to their weaknesses. You must train yourself to become a mirror that doesn't just reflect but amplifies their deepest insecurities. Let them see the doubt in themselves more clearly than they see you. Let your composure mock their impulsiveness without a single insult. Their questions will multiply. Why isn't he reacting? Why isn't he breaking? Does he know something I don't? These questions are poison, and once they drink it, they will start to rot from the inside. This is not about meeting force with force. That's what amateurs do. They exhaust themselves in open combat. You are here to operate in the shadows of their perception. You are here to make them feel the quiet certainty that you have been ahead of them from the very beginning. By the time they realize the game was never in their favor, it will be far too late for them to repair the damage. Number 2. The art of starving your enemy. Starvation is a crueler weapon than any open strike. When you starve your enemy, you are not depriving them of food. You are depriving them of the energy that sustains their power over you. That energy is your reaction, your validation, your visible frustration. Without it, they wither. The powerful understand this. A man cannot be dangerous to you if you control the oxygen his fire needs to burn. Your enemy thrives on acknowledgement. Every time you answer their insult, defend yourself against their smear, or try to correct their lie, you feed them. You tell them they matter. You tell them they've struck a nerve. They record your reaction like a hunter marking tracks in the snow. They'll follow those tracks until they find a kill. But when you give them nothing, no response, no visible emotion, they wander in circles, exhausting themselves. The Machiavellian mind knows that starving someone is not passive. It is a siege, a deliberate, methodical cutting off of supply lines. You observe from a distance. You let them make the first, second, and third move while you remain motionless. You study their patterns. When they strike, how they strike, and why. You begin to see their attacks not as threats, but as signals, signs that they are losing stability. And they will lose stability. The silence will drive them to madness. They will grow louder, more reckless, more desperate, hoping you will finally give them something to feed on. They will try new tactics, speak more aggressively, perhaps even humiliate themselves publicly just to get a reaction. And every time you deny them, you make them weaker. This is not about letting them win in the moment. It's about letting them burn their own resources until there's nothing left. You are not retreating. You are drawing them into a war they cannot sustain. In this war, the one who controls the pace controls the outcome. And when the final moment comes, you will still be standing with your strength intact, while they collapse from exhaustion they inflicted upon themselves. Remember this: you don't need to destroy them. You need only make their power irrelevant. Comment this to anchor it in your mind. I win by giving nothing. Number 3. Weaponizing their expectations. Expectation is a weakness. The moment someone believes they can predict you, they start preparing for a version of you that no longer exists. Your enemy will always assume you'll respond the way you always have, through defense, argument, or retaliation. This is where you break them, by shattering their ability to forecast your next move. People crave patterns. They anchor themselves in the comfort of thinking they know you. But cold mental power is the art of becoming unpredictable without becoming erratic. You must learn to deliver silence where they expect noise, calm where they expect rage, and a calculated strike when they least anticipate it. This destroys their rhythm, and once rhythm is gone, control collapses. You can weaponize expectation in 2 ways. The first is to remove it entirely, become unreadable, a closed book they can't skim for clues. The second is to mislead, feed them a predictable pattern only to betray it at the critical moment. Both paths lead to the same outcome: psychological disarmament. Machiavelli knew that the most dangerous moment for an enemy is not when you oppose them openly, but when you appear predictable and harmless, only to change the game in one decisive movement. When you do this, you don't just win, you humiliate them. You show them their greatest weapon, their belief they understood you, was a lie. From that point forward, they will hesitate before moving against you. They will second-guess every step, question every plan, and fear that you are always one step ahead. Because you are. Number 4. The tyranny of silence. Silence is not the absence of sound. It's the presence of control. It's a force, a weapon, and when wielded correctly, it's more devastating than any outburst or threat. Most people fear silence because it forces them to sit with themselves. It strips away distractions, exposes insecurities, and leaves only raw, unfiltered thought. But your enemy will fear your silence for a far sharper reason. It will force them to sit with their own weakness. In a confrontation, the one who speaks first is almost always the one who feels cornered. The person who rushes to fill the air with explanations, justifications, or demands is the one trying to claw back control. This is why you must resist that temptation entirely. When you remain still, expressionless, unbothered, you flip the balance of power instantly. You are no longer playing defense. You have forced them into it. Silence is not inaction. It is the most active form of psychological dominance when used with precision. Every second you withhold a reaction, the pressure builds inside their mind. They start to imagine what you might be thinking. Then they begin to imagine what you might be planning. And the human mind, left in uncertainty, will always assume the worst about an opponent it cannot read. They will assign you strategies you haven't even considered yet, and in doing so, they'll begin to fight against the idea of you, not just the reality. That is when you know you've taken control. Your silence becomes a mirror, and in that mirror, they will see only their own insecurity staring back at them. They will begin to project their fears into the void you leave. If they believe you are dangerous, they will imagine you plotting their downfall in exquisite detail. If they believe you are more capable than them, they will envision you stacking advantages in the shadows. This is the beauty of silence. It allows them to build their own prison cell, brick by brick. But the tyranny of silence goes deeper than simply not speaking. It is also the art of strategic absence. Ignoring their provocation, refusing to show up to their battlefield, denying them the confrontation they desperately need. This is how you suffocate an enemy without touching them. You remove yourself from their reach and force them to swing at the air. When they attack and you are nowhere to be found, the aggression has nowhere to land. This leads to frustration, and frustration turns to desperation. And desperation, in the hands of someone you seek to destroy, is a fatal flaw. This absence isn't passive hiding, it's calculated starvation. You're denying them the emotional reaction that would feed their momentum. You're robbing them of the public spectacle they hope to create. You're making them fight a ghost, and every battle against a ghost ends the same way: exhaustion, paranoia, and collapse. Silence can also be a weapon of timing. You may withhold for days, weeks, or even months before speaking. And when you do finally break that silence, every word carries the weight of all the words you didn't say. The longer you wait, the heavier the blow lands when you choose to speak. A single sentence delivered after a long, cold silence can dismantle someone's confidence entirely, because they've spent all that time imagining what you might say, and your actual words will cut deeper than anything they imagined. Machiavelli would call this the invisible strike, damaging your opponent without moving a muscle, without showing your hand, without spending your resources. They don't see the wound until it's too late to stop the bleeding. This is the same principle predators use in nature. The stillness before the pounce is often more dangerous than the strike itself, because the prey loses its nerve before the fight even begins. The true mastery of the tyranny of silence lies in pairing it with presence at exactly the right moment. Too much silence, and your enemy may adapt. Too much absence, and they may shift focus. The art is in knowing when to be unseen, and when to appear suddenly, calm, cold, and in complete command. This abrupt shift from absence to presence magnifies your power. It's the difference between a shadow on the wall and the figure stepping out of the darkness. When you reappear, you control the frame. Your timing makes them feel as if you chose the battlefield, chose the moment, and chose the terms. Because you did. Silence wasn't retreat, it was positioning. And now, when you decide to speak, you speak as the one who has been watching, calculating, preparing. Every word you say is laced with authority because it's clear you didn't rush. Your words have been forged in patience. Understand this, silence isn't simply about saying nothing. It's about saying nothing with purpose. It's about holding your ground without being drawn into theirs. It's about letting them unravel while you stay still. It's about building pressure in their mind until they start to self-destruct. And most importantly, it's about conditioning them to understand that you cannot be provoked on their terms. Once they understand that, you've already broken them. Never forget. When someone cannot get a reaction out of you, they will create their own reactions in their head. And those imagined reactions will often be worse than anything you would have actually said or done. This is why silence can be more brutal than violence. Violence ends. Silence lingers. Comment this so you never forget. My silence is my blade. Number 5. The psychology of controlled appearances. Power is not only in what is seen, it's in when it is seen. The disciplined man understands that presence, like a weapon, must be drawn only when the moment demands it. Appear too often, and you become common. Appear too rarely, and you risk fading into irrelevance. But appear with precision, and you become unforgettable. Presence, when rationed and strategically deployed, is an amplifier of fear, respect, and influence. Controlled appearances turn your presence into an event. People begin to notice the pattern, not consciously at first, but subconsciously. They realize you arrive only when it matters, and when you arrive, things shift. Conversations change, decisions are influenced, dynamics are rearranged. This is not an accident, it is engineered. Every calculated absence builds anticipation, while every reappearance delivers a psychological strike. The mistake most people make is believing that constant visibility equals influence. They flood every room, speak at every opportunity, and show their face in every discussion. But constant exposure breeds familiarity, and familiarity breeds weakness. A man always in sight is a man easy to ignore. Influence does not come from being everywhere. It comes from being exactly where it matters, exactly when it matters. When you master controlled appearances, you control the frame of perception. You become the man whose arrival feels deliberate, inevitable, and dangerous. When you step into a room after being absent, you carry the aura of someone who's been watching from a higher vantage point. Your timing suggests that your moves were decided long before this moment, that you are not reacting, but executing a plan already in motion. This creates an atmosphere of inevitability, the sense that you are operating on a deeper level than those around you. Your enemy will feel this most. They will notice that you can vanish for days, weeks, or even months, and return at a moment that unbalances them entirely. Your silence kept them guessing. Your sudden presence confirms what they feared all along. You were never truly gone. You were simply choosing the moment to strike. The art lies in contrast. You disappear long enough for people to forget your exact position, then reappear with a move so deliberate it resets the entire board. The human mind is wired to respond to contrast with heightened emotion. This is why a quiet man's voice cuts deeper when he finally speaks, why first drop of rain feels heavier after a long drought, why an absence makes the reappearance feel monumental. When you re-emerge, you must do so with presence, not just existence. This means your body language, tone, and pace must communicate control. You walk in with the calm of someone who already knows the outcome. You speak with the confidence of someone who prepared long before others even realized a preparation was needed. You don't announce yourself. You let the change in the room announce you. Controlled appearances are not only about unsettling your enemies, they're also about shaping the loyalty of allies. Your absence forces them to operate without you, but your return reinforces that you are still the axis around which the game turns. This creates a dynamic where both friend and foe measure time in terms of when you are present and when you are not. That is the essence of power, when others begin to organize themselves around your movements. To master this art, you must learn restraint. The urge to always be in the mix is a weakness of insecure men. They crave constant reassurance that they matter. Cold mental power rejects this. You do not need to prove your relevance with noise or endless appearances. You prove it with the impact of the moments you choose to show yourself. Here is the formula. Withdraw when the situation offers no advantage in being seen. Observe from the shadows, gathering information others waste by reacting. Select the moment when stakes are highest or when your presence will cause the greatest shift in energy. Enter with calm precision, making it appear that the entire moment bends to your arrival. Your presence should feel like the tightening of a noose, not frantic, not loud, but undeniable. When you enter, you are not just joining the scene, you are taking ownership of it. Even if you say nothing, your silence now has weight, because it is silence in the open, not in absence. People read your body language, they note your calm, they sense you have already seen more than they have. Machiavelli himself would approve of such timing. He understood that leaders who are constantly accessible become servants to the moods of the crowd, while leaders who control access, and by extension their appearances, become figures of mystique and authority. Those who must seek you out to find you are already on your ground before the interaction even begins. Your enemy will find this maddening. They cannot track you. They cannot predict you. They will lower their guard in your absence, then feel the floor shift beneath them when you appear. They will begin to wonder if every quiet moment is you preparing for something they can't see. That paranoia becomes its own form of submission. You must also understand that a controlled appearance is not always physical. Sometimes it's a message dropped at the perfect time. Sometimes it's an unexpected response after weeks of silence. Sometimes it's a subtle move, a connection made, a resource shifted that your enemy stumbles upon by accident, realizing you were behind it all along. Presence is more than being seen, it's being felt. This is why the art of controlled appearances is lethal. It makes you a phantom when you want to be unseen, and a force when you choose to be seen. You dictate the pace of the game. You decide when the board changes. You decide when your shadow becomes a silhouette, and when that silhouette steps fully into the light. Never forget, the man who is everywhere is noticed by no one. The man who appears exactly where the knife needs to be placed is remembered forever. Number 6. Turning their allies into unwitting agents. The most effective blows are not always struck by your own hand. They're delivered by the hands of others who don't even realize they're serving you. This is the highest form of power, to shape events through proxies who believe they're acting on their own. This is the art of turning your enemy's allies into unwitting agents. You don't storm their fortress. You make the guards open the gates for you, thinking it was their idea. And once they do, they will defend their decision to the end. Because to them, they're not helping you. They're protecting themselves. The first weapon, information. Every alliance rests on trust and shared interest. Break either, and the structure begins to crack. Your first task is to know your enemy's allies better than your enemy does. Learn what drives them: fear, greed, ambition, resentment. Not the surface stories they tell the world, but the quiet truths they don't share. You gather this through observation, not interrogation. Watch how they react when credit is given or denied. Listen to what they complain about when they think no one important is listening. Pay attention to the favors they ask, the names they drop, the opportunities they chase. Once you have this map of desires and insecurities, you can begin to set them against your enemy's agenda. You don't need to tell them your enemy is wrong. You simply introduce subtle tensions. Plant opportunities that benefit them, but inconvenience your enemy. Point out contradictions between their interests and your enemy's goals. Let them come to the conclusion that their loyalty is costing them more than it's worth. The second weapon, plausible influence. Direct manipulation breeds suspicion. The beauty of this method is that they never think you're influencing them. You plant seeds in conversation, an offhand remark, a question framed as curiosity, a compliment with a hidden edge. Instead of telling them what to do, you let them tell themselves it's the right choice. People cling to their own conclusions with far more conviction than they would ever cling to yours. Machiavellian power thrives on this principle. Never carry the banner yourself. Let others carry it, thinking it's theirs. One of the most effective tactics is selective omission. You don't have to lie. You simply leave out certain facts. In the absence of information, they will fill the gaps themselves, usually in ways that benefit you. Human minds are wired to complete patterns. Give them half the picture and they'll paint the rest in your favor. The third weapon, the fracture point. All alliances have pressure points. There's always a moment when loyalties can shift, a decision that will benefit one ally but harm another, a choice that demands someone take a side. Your job is to create or identify these fracture points and make sure your enemy's allies feel them. If you've done your work correctly, the fracture will appear as if it happened naturally. You won't be in the room when the argument breaks out. You won't be seen when the trust begins to erode. But the cracks will form exactly where you predicted, and they will widen until the alliance can no longer hold. Your enemy will sense the shift, but will be powerless to stop it. They'll tighten their grip, micromanage their circle, demand loyalty tests, moves that only push people further away. Paranoia will replace unity, and the moment an ally feels distrusted, they start looking for the exit. The fourth weapon, controlled erosion. This is not manipulation for chaos, it's engineering for collapse. You're not here to set wildfires, you're here to slowly rot the beams holding up the structure until it caves under its own weight. You allow your enemy's allies to keep doing what they're doing, but you tilt the floor so that every step they take moves them away from your enemy's position and closer to yours, or at least away from any position that threatens you. Think of it as guiding a river. You don't stop the flow, you redirect it until it erodes the foundation of the dam from within. By the time anyone notices, the damage is irreversible. The fifth weapon, the shadow of doubt. The most poisonous force in any alliance is suspicion. You don't need to prove betrayal, you just need to suggest the possibility. The human mind will do the rest. An innocent question like, "Do you think they'd have your back if things went bad?" plants a seed. A casual observation such as, "Funny how they didn't mention you in that decision," waters it. Soon, the ally starts keeping mental score, and every perceived slight, whether real or imagined, adds weight to the scale. This slow accumulation of doubt is lethal because it feels self-generated. They believe they are waking up to a truth, when in reality, you have been feeding them morsels of perspective until the entire meal is yours. The result. When this strategy is executed well, the collapse of loyalty is both quiet and irreversible. The enemy finds themselves surrounded by people who no longer defend them with conviction, who no longer protect their secrets with urgency, who may even work against them under the guise of protecting their own interests. Some will defect entirely. Others will simply step back when the enemy needs them most. And the beauty is that you don't have to command it. You've made it so that self-preservation aligns with weakening your opponent. Your enemy will feel it. They will sense that the once solid ground beneath their feet is shifting. But they will not be able to trace the fault lines back to you. And that's the final stroke of power, invisibility. The best manipulation leaves no fingerprints. Machiavellian truth. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this well. He wrote that it is safer to be feared than loved, but it is most effective to be needed by those you control. In this game, you're not just making your enemy lose friends. You're making those friends look elsewhere for guidance, leverage, or opportunity. If they find it in you, even unknowingly, your influence expands while your enemy's collapses. This is why the most skilled operators never declare war outright. They dismantle their opponent's ability to fight long before any battle begins. By the time open conflict would have happened, the opponent is isolated, weakened, and already defeated in spirit. This is the long game. It requires patience, precision, and an unshakable ability to act without ego. You can't rush it. You can't brag about it. You can't show your hand even when the plan is unfolding perfectly. The satisfaction comes not from the recognition of your victory, but from watching your opponent fall without ever knowing why. And when they finally collapse, surrounded by the wreckage of broken alliances, you will still be in the shadows, untouched, unseen, and in full control of the board. Comment this so you remember it. I win with hands that are not mine. Number 7. How to make time your sharpest weapon. Power is not always about raw strength. Often, it's about patience so sharp it cuts deeper than any blade. In the hands of the disciplined, time becomes the most ruthless weapon in existence, because unlike force, time doesn't simply wound, it erodes. It wears down even the strongest defenses until they collapse under their own weight. Your enemy will always try to pull you into their rhythm. They'll push for speed. They'll provoke you to react now, to argue now, to act now. And why? Because speed favors the emotional. Emotional decisions favor the weak. The moment you allow them to set the pace, you've already surrendered the high ground. Machiavellian power moves at its own tempo. It uses time like a vice, slowly tightening, never loosening, giving no relief. You let situations breathe just enough for them to rot from within. This is not hesitation. This is not inaction. This is deliberate waiting. You allow events to unfold naturally, knowing that the longer a problem sits, the heavier it becomes for your enemy to carry. The genius of using time as a weapon is that it forces them to waste energy while you conserve yours. They grow restless, they act prematurely, they commit to strategies they haven't thought through. And you remain still, calculating, knowing that desperation is the mother of mistakes. Time as a magnifier. Small cracks in their position are nothing at first, but left untouched, cracks grow into fractures. Fractures become breaks. What was once a hairline weakness becomes a complete collapse. A careless promise they made now festers into resentment. An impulsive alliance they formed now becomes a burden. You don't need to push them. You only need to wait for the natural decay to take its toll. Time also amplifies doubt. If you've already planted seeds of uncertainty, every day that passes without clarity will feed those doubts until they consume the host entirely. Silence is a multiplier. The longer they go without hearing from you, the more dangerous they imagine you've become. The unscheduled threat. One of the most devastating ways to use time is to combine it with uncertainty. A visible threat with a fixed deadline creates urgency, but a visible threat with no deadline creates paranoia. They have to prepare constantly because they don't know when the blow will land. That's the difference between an open fight and psychological siege. Imagine telling an enemy nothing more than, "We'll talk soon." That single phrase can keep them awake for nights, because soon could mean an hour or a year. And in that void of clarity, the mind will always invent the worst-case scenario. The effect is corrosive. They'll burn resources protecting against possibilities that may never come. They'll avoid risks, delay decisions, and weaken themselves through inaction while you haven't moved at all. That's the paradox of time as a weapon. You can break someone without ever touching them. Weaponized delay. There's a difference between procrastination and controlled delay. Procrastination comes from fear or laziness. Controlled delay comes from strategy. You respond not when they want you to, but when it's most damaging for them. Sometimes this means moving faster than expected. More often, it means moving far slower. Let them stew in anticipation. Let them keep checking for your response and finding nothing. Let them feel that uncertainty gnawing at their resolve. A late move, delivered with precision, often has more impact than a fast one delivered without thought. The patience trap. The real mastery comes when you use time not just to wait, but to train your enemy into destroying themselves. You set the pace so slowly that they start overreaching, trying to force the confrontation you refuse to give them. They throw resources at dead ends. They reveal their own strategies prematurely. They bleed themselves dry, all while you simply wait. Machiavelli himself wrote that it is often better to delay action until the situation has matured to the point where your intervention will be decisive. In his terms, premature action is like harvesting fruit before it's ripe, wasteful, and self-defeating. Mastering the tempo. There are 3 tempos in cold mental power. Faster than expected, shocks the opponent, forcing them to regroup. Used rarely for maximum effect. Exactly on time, aligns your move with the moment of their greatest vulnerability. Slower than expected, the most dangerous, because it forces them to live in uncertainty, stretching their resources thin. Knowing which tempo to choose requires perception. You must see not only what your enemy is doing, but where they will be emotionally, mentally, and strategically days, weeks, or months from now. You move when their stability has decayed just enough for a single strike to topple the structure. Time as a psychological cage. Here is the final truth. Time, used correctly, makes your enemy live inside your frame. They start thinking about your next move more than their own. They pause before decisions, wondering if it will trigger you. They measure their timeline against yours and realize they don't control it anymore. When you control time, you control the pace. When you control the pace, you control the outcome. This is why cold mental power does not rush, because rushing is the luxury of the desperate. The day you strike after long patience, the blow will land with the weight of every second they spent fearing it. They will feel the years, months, or weeks behind it, and they will know in that moment, you were never idle. You were sharpening your blade the entire time. Comment this so it becomes your discipline. I let time sharpen my blade. Number 8. Breaking their spirit without breaking a single rule. The most devastating victories are the ones where your enemy cannot accuse you of a single violation, yet they're left in pieces. This is the purest form of dominance, when you break their spirit without ever crossing the lines they thought you'd have to cross. It's the moment they realize they've been dismantled without you ever stepping outside the acceptable boundaries. And that realization is worse than defeat. It's humiliation. Machiavelli understood that true power rarely needs to be loud or obvious. The most effective form of control is the kind that leaves no blood on your hands. You operate within the visible rules, but you bend the invisible ones until they snap in silence. Every move you make appears defensible. Every action can be explained away as reasonable, even noble. Yet the combined effect is suffocating. This is the paradox. You are not attacking them directly. You are removing the air from the room. You are stripping away the sources of their strength one by one until they are left gasping, without ever seeing you holding the rope. Dismantling their psychological anchors. People don't stand because of sheer willpower alone. They stand because of anchors, the allies who validate them, the positions that give them status, the routines that give them confidence, the narrative that tells them they're in control. You do not smash these anchors with a hammer. That would expose you. Instead, you let them loosen on their own while you create subtle currents to speed the process. They're allies. You don't confront them directly or try to steal them. Instead, you encourage friction between them and your enemy. You introduce small doubts. You feed minor resentments. The relationships weaken naturally, and your enemy finds themselves surrounded by people whose loyalty is no longer absolute. Their position. You don't storm their throne. You allow them to damage it themselves through overreach, arrogance, or ill-timed decisions. You create situations where the safest choice for them also happens to be the weakest choice long-term. They take the bait, and their own actions dismantle their authority, their confidence. You don't shatter it with one blow. You let it corrode, slowly, as repeated small failures, public embarrassments, or unreciprocated gestures stack up. 1,000 paper cuts they barely notice until they are bleeding out. The brilliance of this method is that there is no singular attack they can point to. The decay feels like the natural order of things. When others see their fall, they don't see a war. They see someone who simply lost their grip. No incident, no proof. In direct conflict, there is always a moment to remember. The insult that started it, the move that crossed the line. That moment becomes a rallying point for your enemy's resistance. But here, there is nothing to rally around. Your work is so gradual, so intertwined with the natural flow of events, that when they try to explain what's happening, they sound paranoid. I think they're working against me, they say, but without proof, it just sounds like an excuse for their failures. That's the beauty of breaking someone within the rules. You remove their ability to defend themselves without removing their ability to speak. They can talk, but talking only makes them look weaker. They can accuse, but accusing makes them look desperate. The court of public perception sides with you simply because you've kept your hands clean, weaponizing their own reactions. One of the most dangerous advantages you gain from this method is that your enemy begins doing the work for you. When they finally feel the walls closing in, they panic, and panic makes them loud. They may lash out at people in their circle, damaging their own alliances. They may rush into public arguments, showing instability. They may start accusing without evidence, which only paints them as irrational. Every misstep they take feeds the narrative that they are the problem, and you remain untouched, an observer in the eyes of everyone else. This is why Machiavellian strategy often prefers erosion to demolition. An enemy destroyed by their own hand is a far safer victory than one destroyed by yours, because they cannot rebuild without first confronting the truth that they were the architect of their downfall. The invisible siege. Think of this approach as a siege without walls. You cut off resources without surrounding their fortress. You remove allies without open recruitment. You drain morale without direct confrontation. This invisible siege works because it bypasses the two strongest instincts an enemy has: the instinct to defend against obvious threats and the instinct to retaliate against visible attackers. You give them neither. Instead, you let them flail in an empty field, swinging at shadows. In this kind of war, time is your ally. The longer the process, the deeper the collapse. They will try to adjust, but without understanding where the damage is coming from, their adjustments are blind. They cannot block a strike they can't see. Reputation, management. While you dismantle them, you must remain beyond suspicion. That means you never show frustration, never celebrate their losses openly, never make moves that tie directly back to you. If questioned, your involvement should look like coincidence at best. You maintain composure in public, even toward them. You speak respectfully, even about them. This not only protects you, it adds to their frustration. They cannot paint you as the villain because you've never given anyone a reason to believe you are. This is psychological warfare at its cleanest. It is not about destruction for its own sake. It's about achieving the result without creating evidence or enemies you don't need. When you break someone's spirit like this, they disappear quietly, and the world thinks it was their own doing. The aftermath. When you can make an opponent voluntarily choose self-destruction while you remain untarnished, you have reached the highest level of cold mental power. The war ends not with their body on the ground, but with their will on its knees. And the best part? You walk away without a single mark against your name. By the time they realize you were involved, it's too late. Their alliances are gone, their reputation is damaged, and their influence has evaporated. Even if they try to rebuild, they'll be doing it from a position of isolation and mistrust. The very act of trying to recover becomes proof of how far they've fallen. You have not just beaten them, you've rewritten the story of who they are in the eyes of everyone else. And that story will outlive the conflict. This is the art to destroy without appearing to destroy, to win without a visible fight, to remain clean while they drown in their own mistakes. It is the kind of victory Machiavelli would admire because it doesn't just remove an opponent, it makes their return impossible. Number 9, the state of untouchable. Untouchable is not a title, it's a state of being. It's when no attack rattles you, no provocation moves you, and no loss breaks you. It's when your value is self-contained, your control absolute, and your power silent yet undeniable. To be untouchable, you must master every weapon we've spoken of: silence, controlled appearances, the starvation of enemies, the bending of time, the invisible siege. But more than that, you must remove your dependency on outcomes. You win because you cannot be cornered. Even if they strip away positions, alliances, or resources, you remain the same. An untouchable man doesn't fight for validation. He doesn't need to prove a point. His presence is the point. His composure is the proof. Enemies exhaust themselves trying to find a weakness that isn't there. This is the final lesson. You don't need to be loved, feared, or admired to rule. You need only to be inevitable. Comment this now so it locks into your mind. I am inevitable. And if this struck something deep inside you, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your ascent into cold mental power has only begun. Before you leave, the next step in your rise is waiting for you. Watch the video appearing in the end screen. It will take your cold mental power to a level most men will never reach. And if you want me to start a full series on mastering emotional intelligence to make you unstoppable, comment this right now. I want series.